What's going on, guys, and welcome to the first ever episode of CJ Rugby Prep Podcast. Now, bear with me with the setup. We're currently moving houses, and over the next few months, I want to get a little bit more professional in the way that we do this, and we will. Okay, so if the audio is bad right now, if the camera is bad right now, I do apologize. But like I always say to you guys who are watching, is that the best time to start is today. So we're just gonna stop fucking around and stop waiting for the perfect equipment and perfect time, and I'm just gonna get straight into things from you. So first of all, before I start, just a quick one. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. My aim is going to be to release one podcast every single week. And of course, you being subscribed, then you'll have like first access to it. And yeah, taking more and more steps to obviously, becoming a better rugby athlete for yourself. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing, I wanted to make the first podcast then a little bit about sort of the most important sort of area and mistakes that I see people making within their rugby prep, and it's something that is not very well known in the world of rugby strength and conditioning in terms of players. Okay, so my aim and my job is to kind of make sure then that you are crystal clear in terms of why we're trying to do the high-low training split, which you would have seen in the title, and like what the high-low training split is, how to run it, why it's important, and yeah, I just want to make sure that we're covering all bases there. Okay, so the first thing that I want to cover with you then is to more or less show you then what it is and what sort of stuff then that you would essentially see within the high-low training split. Okay, so you all would have heard of it. Okay, we have this thing called our central nervous system in the body, and basically it keeps score on everything that you do. Your stress and your recovery, all the stuff that sort of goes towards performance is kept score by your central nervous system. Okay, and there are things that are highly stressful and highly demanding on your central nervous system, and then there are things that are not so stressful and are considered low central nervous system. Okay, so I want to basically run through with you the few things that that are going to obviously sort of fall into those categories. Okay, so the first thing that I want to cover is what essentially are we looking at in terms of your high central nervous stuff. Okay, so this, with the high central nervous system stuff, this is typically going to take you around 48 hours to recover from. Okay, now this sort of high central nervous system stuff, there are things like your sprint training, intense anaerobic conditioning, or like repeat speed conditioning, hard rugby sessions, or whether you're doing contact, whether your coach has got you running suicides, all the hard fucking rugby drills that the coaches love to do. So the sessions where it's like, fuck, I knew I had a session there, that was tough, they're highly stressful, highly demanding on the central nervous system. Any sort of lower body power and strength work is going to be very stressful as well. And the reason why it's lower body and not upper body is because your lower body, then the muscles in your lower body are a lot bigger, which means that they carry a lot more fatigue and they take a lot more time to recover basically from that. Okay, so I wanted to think of that in terms of, if I was to give you 5 sets of 10, which I never would, on a back squat, okay, you were going to be walking the next day, even the next few days, as if you've shit yourself. Whereas if I give you 5 sets of 10 on a barbell bench press, yes, you're going to wake up, and if you do this movement that everybody does after they train chest, and you get that little bit of a tenderness and soreness in there, like that area is going to be sore, but it's not going to be sore to the point where it's affecting your daily life and you're not able to sit down, you can't sit on the toilet, you can't get up and down the stairs. So the lower body stuff is a lot more high central nervous system, so you're looking at lower body power, lower body strength work, and then also lower body hypertrophy work as well. Okay, so essentially we're looking at anything that's really to do with the lower body is going to be a little bit more demanding on the central nervous system than what it is on the upper body. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that like long aerobic runs are essentially low central nervous system. when they are. But what happens usually is that people will say, oh, I'm going to go for a long aerobic run. And then, 5 minutes into the run, your heart rate is at like 180, 175, and you're like redlining for the whole run for like 30 to 40 minutes. So yes, running at a low heart rate is definitely lower central nervous system, but more often than not, we're not disciplined enough, and we end up obviously going for the high central nervous system, where we run for like 5k, 6k, 7k, or whatever it is, fast as we can, which is going to carry a lot of fatigue there. And like I said, right, all those high central nervous system there that you see on the left hand side, they're all going to take you like 48 hours to recover from at least. Okay, so it's something to be very, very careful of in your training. Then the stuff on the right then, so the low central nervous system stuff that you see in a case, so this is things like aerobic conditioning. Like I mentioned, it could be a run, okay, if you've done a 5k run, but like your heart rate is staying like in zone 2, zone 3, it's not going to be that taxing on your body. So aerobic conditioning, I don't know why I've got easy aerobic conditioning twice there, so yeah, ignore that second one. Easy rugby sessions, so things like team runs, things like captain's runs, I know some teams do that on a Friday. Yeah, like units, so the backs are going through some backs moves, the forwards are going through line outs and scrums and things like that. It's not too intensive on the body there, so you're able to recover and go again the next day. Upper body power, upper body strength, they're all yes, to a certain degree, and hypertrophy is going to be a little bit taxing on your body, but typically that's going to take less than 24 hours for you to recover from. And then things like mobility and prehab and things like that. Okay, so they're all going to be your low central nervous system stuff, right? So the idea behind this and what it is that we are trying to do is to make sure that we keep our high days high and our low days low, and we don't mix things, which I'll show you in a second. Okay. The next thing then is like why. Okay, so why do you want to do the high-low split? And essentially, the high-low split got popularized by a sprint coach, Charlie Francis, and essentially what the idea behind it is that if you kind of mix your training with like hard stuff in one day and then easy stuff in one day, all you end up doing is just accumulating fatigue throughout the week. And like what you can see from the slide here, okay, is that you just end up in this like messy zone where you are basically just training at a medium intensity, where it's like 75 to 95% basically of your sort of max effort. And the reason being is because you're too fatigued to actually go to 100 essentially. Okay, so what you're trying to do is like you're trying to go 100 every day, or you're trying to like go 50 in the morning, 100 in the evening. What happens then is that you just start accumulating fatigue throughout the week, and your 100% is usually then like your 75, 85, 95%. Okay, so essentially it's too slow to be specific to a training objective. So what I mean by that is that if you are essentially going like medium intensity all the time, then you don't actually build that sort of higher intensity stuff, and then you're going too hard to actually build the lower intensity stuff, and you just spend, like I said, this time in the middle here where it doesn't really do anything for your game, and you just end up accumulating fatigue over time. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing then is that once you start spending too much time in that middle ground, is that it starts taking more and more time to recover. So as like the week goes on, as the weeks, months and years go on, and believe me, rugby players spend years doing this, okay, so it is definitely a thing where you then just spend all that time in the middle, and the middle work that you've done on Wednesday, the fatigue of that then is carrying on to Thursday. The fatigue of Thursday is carrying on to Friday, and then we just end up basically accumulating fatigue right throughout the week, right throughout the pre-season, in-season, off-season, whatever you are, okay, in your season from there. Yeah, so that's like the main reason why we do the high-low training split, okay, is that we want to avoid this middle ground that rugby players fall into, and then we don't start collecting fatigue through the week, okay. And now this visual here is going to give you a way better sort of understanding of what I'm talking about, okay. So this is something basically in terms of like how your training week could look, okay. So let's say, for example, you trained on a Tuesday and a Thursday. This will look different to everybody, okay. Like if you have rugby on a Monday and a Wednesday and you play on a Sunday, like this week will look different. This is just a rough example, and this is like most people, you know, train on a Tuesday, Thursday, and then play on a Saturday. Okay, so what you're currently looking at here, right, is the graph in front of you, meaning that the sort of green bars are your low fatigue stuff, your low fatigue work, and then your sort of red bars then are your high fatigue stuff that you want to be doing. Okay, so this is like the perfect setup, ideally, if we were looking at it, right? So like Monday, basically we're doing everything that's low central nervous system. So you would do like upper body strength and power, a little bit of like aerobic work. If you wanted to get some mobility in, that's going to be great. The Tuesday then is going to be your hard day. Okay, so we've just done an easy day on a Monday, hard day on a Tuesday now, where we go lower body strength and power. Like I said, remember now, that's going to be your hard stuff. Then you've got your hard rugby session. Okay, so of course you can't control your rugby sessions. I can't control your rugby sessions. All depends on how much of a maniac your rugby coach is, and there's a lot of them out there. Okay, but you know, odds on, they're probably going to get you to do some sort of fitness. You may do a little bit of contact. If they're a good coach, that they'll understand the importance of doing some speed training. So they may get a little bit of speed work in on the Tuesday as well. But like that Tuesday, if you have the time, obviously I know a lot of you have jobs, and I'll cover this in another training, but if you have the time, you should be training your lower body in the morning before work if you can, or on your break in the afternoon, or straight after work even, and then going into your rugby session there. Okay, so you've just done literally all your hardest shit in that day. Okay, and then what happens then is Wednesday you can actually just take it off and have a rest day. So your rest day then could look like you're doing a little bit of sauna, jumping in the ice bath, mobility. You just do fuck all. Like that's literally what I used to do sometimes. Like I found sometimes me trying to do all these recovery techniques were just causing more stress to me mentally, and sometimes I just needed a day where I'd get home from work, I'd put my feet up, I'd have a good meal, I'd watch a good series, and then I'd fall asleep nice and early, and I always felt amazing then waking up on the Thursday. Okay, so yeah, the Wednesday can kind of be, you know, what you feel works best for you, and everybody is different. Then you go into Thursday. So again, you know, you could possibly get a gym session in there if you wanted to, but ideally you probably just get your speed and your rugby training done in there, possibly get a little bit of a conditioning top up as well, which is again, the speed stuff is going to be a little bit sort of fatiguing, so we kind of class that as a high day. And then on the Friday, this is kind of like a sort of pre-season setup here. Friday then you would do your total body session with your aerobic hit. Okay, so it's going to be, you know, quite not really sort of that fatiguing as such. And then Saturday you would have your speed and your conditioning again, which is going to be that high day. Sunday I don't want to hear from you. Okay, this graph was actually for one of my clients in terms of the group stuff that I run, and yeah, I just like to have a joke and fuck about with people. So yeah, I say I don't want to hear from you, but yeah, that's kind of the setup that you can do there. If this was in season now, like what you would do essentially, obviously that Saturday would just be a game day, and it's high because it's a game day. That total body session would be a little bit more of like a primer session, so you do a little bit of power work, a little bit of like an upper body sort of pump session, and you take away that aerobic element there on the Friday, because you don't want to be doing that really before a game as such. Okay, not that it would fatigue you that much, but it's just no real sort of use of you doing that. Okay, so yeah, that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of like how the week can look, and like how many sort of hard days you have, and what happens from there. This is just a bit of an example of what happens when you just fall into this category of one, either mixing your hard stuff and easy stuff in the same day. So basically, you know, Monday, for example, let's say we done, you know, our lower body, and then we just chilled, and then Tuesday we done our upper body, and then our rugby. Like you've just mixed stuff there, okay, because you've had something hard on Monday, and then something hard on Tuesday through your rugby. Wednesday then, you know, most people don't like to rest, so they do something again on Wednesday. Thursday then we're into like rugby training again, and you might do like another upper body session or what have you. And then what happens is that fatigue levels start start low during the at the start of the week, and then we just essentially build fatigue over the week, okay? Because you're not giving your body that chance to adapt and rest from the stimulus that you're putting onto it, because you're spending so much time either mixing hard and easy things during the same day, or you're basically just doing a shit ton of like medium intensity work, which is no good for anyone, okay? So yeah, that's really important that you do start trying to get that high-low training split into your week. Now, I do understand, right, that a lot of you may not have the time to be able to train lower body on a Tuesday morning or in the afternoon and then go to rugby training in the evening, and I totally get that, okay? And what I'll be doing is coming up with a host of different trainings that is going to help you with that, but I just don't want to throw too much at you today in terms of the first episode. Yeah, and I just wanted to give you an idea of like how that would look if you had quite a bit of time to train, okay? So if you could train in the gym 3-4 times a week, if you could train on the same days that you have rugby, that's the kind of setup that you want, okay? And then I'm going to create a training on another time where we just yeah, do a bit of a training for people that are short on time. So yeah, guys, that's kind of everything that I wanted to cover with you today. It's quite, you know, probably a new sort of concept that you guys haven't heard of, but I want to make sure that it's one of the most important things in your rugby training split that you need to be including. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Like I said, I'm going to get better and better at these now. We're going to be releasing one a week, and yeah, this is going to be absolutely class. Just my way of giving a little bit more to you guys rather than 60-second reels on Instagram. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe. I'd appreciate it if you could share it with a mate, if you could even you know, share it to your Instagram story, the link to the video or to the channel. It all helps, okay? And yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll be back with you next week for episode 2.